Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is the real reason Paul George is the key to Kawhi Leonard's future success. So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, be on the lookout for our Dreamerspro premium platform that we're launching next week. Be on the lookout for that. And also be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com, which we're launching at the end of this month. Anyway, let me get into this topic here. I produced a lot of content today, produced a lot of Clippers content, but I got a lot that I want to get off my chest. And so bear with me here, but I'm not going to take too much more of your time here. So, but again, it all depends when you see this video. If this is the first video you're going to see, then it's not going to make any sense to you. Like, what are you talking about, man? I haven't seen anything. So it all depends on that. Anyway, let me get into this topic right here. We all know the trouble that the Clippers went through to get Paul George, right? Essentially, Kawhi Leonard walked up to them with a proverbial gun and said to them, "Hey, you want me? Get me Paul George," right? Now, Kawhi Leonard did also request to get other players. I think he went after Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant, right? KD, I'm not so sure about his health issues right now, so I'm not sure. And Jimmy, you can't argue with Jimmy Butler, man. You can't argue with Jimmy Butler. But nevertheless, they got Paul George, right? They gave away some picks and all of this, and they got Paul George, right? They got rid of so many different players, and they got him. So they went out there and did their thing, and they got him. And Kawhi Leonard was the biggest proponent for them getting Paul George. And he said that's the only way he would come to LA. You don't get me, PG, I'm not coming. I mean, to the Clippers. If you do come, if you do get him, I'll be there. And the minute they got him, I thought that this would be this would be the best 1-2 punch in the NBA for so many reasons, right? For so many reasons, I thought that. Number one, they're the two best two-way players, wing two-way players in the NBA. There's not another player on the wing that plays better two-way basketball than Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. There's not another one. Some may argue LeBron, but a younger LeBron James, not an older LeBron. LeBron is not making all first defensive teams at this stage in his career. He's made 5 all first defensive teams, which is more than Paul George made. I think Paul George has made 2 and 1 defensive team and 2 all second defensive teams. So he's made about 4 all defensive teams. But LeBron is older. So let me just put that in there for people that are going to start getting their panties into a bunch because they're always there. So let me just say that. But as far as the best one, and then Kawhi Leonard puts him over the top. Kawhi Leonard's a 2-time defensive player of the year. So I don't know what you're going to say with that. Like, you can say all defensive all you want, but it's nothing you can't take away those 2 defensive player of the year. You can't. Like, some people try to, and they fail every single time. You can't. Now, that was the first reason. The second reason was these guys, their basketball games complement each other very well. Number one, they don't need the ball to score. They're not ball dominant scorers. They can play within an offense. They can move without the basketball and score and catch. They're very good catch and shoot players. They're good spot up shooters from the corner from the corner 3. When they do catch the ball, they can make a decision. When they catch the ball, they usually know what the hell they're doing. The only time you see them kind of hold the ball over dribble sometimes is in the post, but usually they're looking to draw double teams. But other than that, they're very efficient scorers. They don't waste energy. It's not like a James Harden or a Russell Westbrook that must have the ball. And if they don't have the ball, it's going to be very, very hard for them to have any kind of impact on the game. They're not these type of scorers. That's the second thing. So their games complement each other very well. Number 2, they play similar positions. I think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both 6'7", 6'8", so they can interchange at either positions. You can either have them at the 2 or the 3. They can just switch off of each other. It's not like you have one guy that's a point guard and another guy's a center. It's 2 completely different things. These guys can switch up. So, for example, why is that important? If LeBron is having a hot night, right, you can switch Kawhi Leonard onto LeBron as stretches, right, and then you can throw Paul George at him. But if your best defensive player, one of your best is a point guard in the center, you can't do anything with that. So they add so much versatility on defense to play against wings and scoring perimeter play. And now it's a perimeter player's game. If you think about the advent of the 3-point shot and all of these things, they're both good for about 50 plus points a game. They're both good for that. If I look at their current productivity this season, let's look at Paul George. All right, Paul George is averaging 25 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 5.1 assists. If we look at Kawhi Leonard, he's at 22. I don't know if it's factoring in the game that he had last. No, excuse me. He's at 23.3 points per game. So that's roughly 50 points per game, 48 points per game, right? Give or take some units. So they're both good for about 50 points per game. So you can kind of pencil them in for that. And they're both in their primes. Both of these guys are in their prime. So, I think it's a perfect match made in heaven. Now, the reason I say that Kawhi Leonard's future success really, really hinges on Paul George's how Paul George plays is number one, because Kawhi Leonard is playing with the Clippers, right? So, and Paul George is playing with the Clippers. It's not like as if Kawhi Leonard is playing on another team. Kawhi Leonard won his championship with the Toronto Raptors, so one could obviously has nothing to do with Paul George. But now, literally, if Paul George doesn't play up to snuff, Kawhi Leonard can't win. We saw that in the playoffs last season. In the playoffs, Paul George was completely he was very, very inconsistent. One game he was on, the next game he was on. He always played defense, but one game he was on, one game he was off. One game he was on. And Kawhi Leonard, if you look at his numbers, he was just carrying the Clippers for those 2 rounds. And then in that game 7 is when he had a horrible game and Paul George couldn't pick up the slack for him. It's not like 2 nights ago, I think, when they played against, who was it they beat? The Phoenix Suns. When Kawhi Leonard went 4 of 20, shot 4 of 20 from the field. He shot, 23%? That, 22, 23%? But Paul George was able to get you 39 points per game. 39 points that game. So because he was able to cover for Kawhi Leonard, they were able to come away with the win. But if both of them are underperforming, then it's going to be very hard for the Clippers to win. And that's what happened in the playoffs last season. Because Paul George didn't show up. Now, some people say Kawhi Leonard had a bad game, but if Paul George showed up some of those other games, they probably wouldn't even have been in that situation, right? If you really want to think about it. So that's one of the reasons. And thus far, PG is showing his value to the Clippers, right? I mean, if you look at his numbers this season, if we're talking about early MVP voting, he has to be one of the top candidates, right? The guy, as I said, he's shooting, getting you 25.1 points per game. He's shooting 50% from the field. 50% from the field. He's shooting 50% from the 3. 50% from the field, 50% from the 3, averaging 8.7 3-pointers a game, making 4.3. Paul George is playing outside of his brain, right? He's shooting 93% from the free throw line. He's essentially having a 50-40-90 season. The only other players that have those type of seasons are Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant, and that's about it, right? That is about it. He is in deck and getting you 1.2 steals per game. 1.7 steals per game. Paul George is playing outside of his brain right now. Like, he's playing so good. And if this Paul George shows up on a consistent nightly basis, Kawhi Leonard will be walking away with more championship jewelry. He is a difference from Kawhi Leonard finishing his career as a 2-time Finals MVP or having 3, 4, 5 NBA championship rings. It literally rests on Paul George because Kawhi Leonard is going to show up. 8 times out of 10, he's going to be there. He's going to show. He's done it before. So no one is sitting here questioning Kawhi Leonard. You're not hearing Devin Booker and Chris Paul opening their mouths to even look at Kawhi Leonard. Nobody talks trash to him because he's too accomplished. What are you going to say to him? The only person that could probably talk trash to Kawhi Leonard in the league right now is LeBron. Outside of LeBron, there's no other basketball player that can even say anything to Kawhi. Literally, it's only LeBron. He's the only one that can say, hey, man, calm down, please. I have twice as many rings as you and twice as many. He's the only one. Apart from that, no one else in basketball can talk trash to Kawhi Leonard. And, if he does that, if PG shows up, Kawhi Leonard will have more championship rings. It's literally that simple because he's done it before. Paul George is the key. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree with me that in order for Kawhi Leonard to really capture more NBA titles, Paul George needs to show up and play consistent basketball like he's doing right now? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the next video that we have coming up. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day and catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.